Story 1. Having to decide what is for dinner every day for the rest of my life. Remembering to take out the trash. Story 2. Am I the only one who is spontaneously struck by a feeling of dread over the thought of reliving such repetitive and uninspiring days for the rest of my life at random intervals throughout the day? Or is that a common experience? Story 3. Dishes. Why are there so many every day? I live alone. How are there so many dirty dishes when I get home? Is the cat having brunch parties every day when I leave for work? Story 4. The medical system. We are raised with the belief that doctors know what they are doing and will run tests to find the problem or a solution. The reality is that nothing is done until it becomes an emergency. Then, just enough is done to prevent it from being classified as an emergency, and most people fall through the cracks or get passed back and forth between different providers until it is too late. Story 5. Watching the people who raised you and guided you age and pass away is a profound experience. Realizing that one day all the individuals who came before you and who mean so much to you will no longer be present can be truly heartbreaking. Story 6. The realization that the world does not function as it should when considering basic human ethics is disheartening. There are many dishonest and easily corruptible people and companies, willingly causing pain or suffering for others in every country. It is deeply troubling. As you become more interested in history and begin to ask fundamental questions, the bewilderment of it all becomes apparent. The suffering that people have endured over the centuries, and still endure on different levels, is one of the hardest challenges to face as a human. Story 7. Your first child. It still baffles me that you can go to the hospital, have your child, and then they walk you out the door the next day and say good luck. Story 8. My mom actually tried to prepare me for this, but I don't think saying it can truly express the profoundly odd feeling of time seeming to go by faster and faster. Story 9. Coming to the realization that I am getting older quickly. I understand when I was a teenager and elders used to say, yesterday I was 15, and today I am 50. Well, I am here to say yesterday I was 18, and now I am 26. Time flies. It is best to enjoy the present. I dislike stressing about the future, which is why I take a step back and live in the moment. Story 10. All of the random pains, pulls, and strains take much longer to heal, along with the concerning lumps, bumps, and moles. Story 11. The feeling of everything passing too quickly. When things are great, you feel as though you will blink and miss so much. When things are bad, you sense that the limited time you have on this earth is being wasted. Story 12. The tiredness. I used to be perplexed that my mom would take afternoon naps all the time. Now I understand. Your energy and motivation leave you as you get older. Story 13. Leaving school and having no more built-in milestones in your life until retirement. Facing the prospect of 50 years of continuous work interrupted only by occasional vacation time is terrifying. Understanding who your parents are as individuals rather than just as parents, and figuring out what it means to maintain a healthy adult relationship with them, if that's even possible or desirable. Observing your parents' mental and physical decline and the frustrating process of getting them to recognize that they may be a danger to themselves and others, and that they need to relinquish some of their autonomy for their own well-being. Story 14. People get prepared for things. Off the top of my head, I didn't know property taxes could change dramatically the first year after buying a house. I didn't know I had to reseal the driveway every year to keep it from falling apart. I thought I would be a good parent because I am kind and loving. It turns out that parenting is very challenging regardless, and I am not suited for it. Although I guess my dad did prepare me for that when he once advised me not to get married or have kids. I'm glad I didn't listen, though. Thanks, Dad. Story 15. Personal finance encompasses everything from budgeting to understanding taxes, retirement, and estate planning. I genuinely believe high school math should be reimagined. I've never needed anything beyond Algebra 1 and geometry, and even that is pushing it. Reflecting back, understanding budgeting, revolving credit, and lending basics would have been very useful before college. Upon entering the workforce, taxes and retirement accounts became important topics. Now in my 40s, I am dealing with estate planning for my parents. It would have been much better if, instead of learning algebraic equations that I can't even remember, Someone had sat me down and outlined all the critical finance-related documents needed throughout life. Story 16. Death is a concept I understood would eventually happen, but when it occurred, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Months have passed, and I still think about them every day. Story 17. Aging parents, infertility, miscarriage, and issues such as broken appliances or floods. Story 18. Dealing with aging parents who seem to have become even more challenging. How each day leaves you feeling completely exhausted. You will never be compensated for what you are truly worth. How to cope with the difficulties of being responsible for moving. How to navigate complex financial and real estate issues. This is where you can determine your level of education. Living with individuals who are not your family and how unpredictably frightening it can be. Any progress made feels like one step forward and 3 steps back. Did you think your peers and teachers in high school or college were difficult? Story 19. Falling in love for the first time and realizing that you have trauma and that attachment styles exist. Story 20. Not wanting to engage much with your parents anymore because they misalign with your values and worldview. Story 21. I would be doing an email job. Sending emails to people, reading their responses, and then replying to them. Is frustrating. Story 22. Having to challenge your child's understanding of the world and diminish their naivety and innocence involves making a careful choice about the right time to do so. Story 23. I wish I had understood how important it is to pay attention to relationships. It seemed easy when I was younger, but at some point, careers, families, or distance get in the way. Life gets in the way, and it goes by so quickly that one day you realize you haven't spoken to someone in weeks. You mean to call, but then it becomes months, and suddenly it's been so long that you don't know how to reach out anymore. You just drift apart. Pay attention to the relationships you value. You have to tend to them like a garden, or they will disappear when you're not looking. Maybe one day you'll reconnect with an old friend on social media or occasionally spot each other at the grocery store and spend a few minutes catching up. But it's not the same. Story 24. Watching a scary movie and realizing you are the adult in the house. Actually, just realizing you are the adult in any situation. Story 25. Having to clean has always been challenging for me. As an only child, my parents did not enforce important rules, and they often cleaned up after me. My mother passed away when I was 16, and my father passed away when I was 27. Now at 30, I struggle with depression, and because I lack cleaning skills, the task feels overwhelming. Story 26. They never fully understood that the benchmarks for life would become increasingly unattainable as hopes and dreams are disappointed one after another. To rent a proper 3-bedroom house in my city requires a yearly salary of $140,000 this year, with the median house price being between $600,000 and $800,000. Even a 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable area has a minimum price of $400,000. Story 27. Chronic pain, existential dread, depression, loneliness, and the challenges of being a good parent while managing these issues. Story 28. Not having the freedom I was naive enough to think adults have. Now it's just considered a crime if I attempt to take my own life and fail. Story 29. Medicine, we actually do not know much about the human body. There are still new organs being discovered. Medicine is still remarkably primitive and often based on addressing a problem without understanding the full implications, only later realizing the issues that one solution may cause elsewhere. Story 30. Infertility. I was prepared for the exact opposite. I was taught that even thinking about sex could cause pregnancy. Instead, 1 in 8 couples will have difficulty having children. Story 31. Not having time to meet with friends for a simple gathering is challenging. It's important to schedule these meetings like appointments unless they are based on an event where you will be going together. Story 32. How to handle obstacles and challenges you may face after graduation. Suddenly, I find myself on this path and must make serious decisions related to my practical life, but I don't know how. Story 33. End-of-life care for my family's senior pit bull. My mom didn't want to deal with his accidents anymore. She gave me the ultimatum of either taking him in or helping her find a new home for him. We've had him since he was 7 months old. He's 12 now and turning 13 this October. I couldn't believe she was doing this to me, but I took him in knowing it was against my lease and that it was the smallest place he has ever had to live. Adjusting has been really hard. I moved out 3.5 years ago and only saw him when I visited my mom. Now he's with me full-time, and it's so hard seeing his age show in day-to-day life. His labored breathing, his dry, cracking nose and paws. The way he can't go for walks longer than 20 to 30 minutes consecutively anymore. His drooping eyes, his sagging skin, his rough, coarse coat, small bald patches along his joints. I've got him on every vitamin and supplement you can think of and give him the best care I can possibly manage. I had blood work done at the veterinarian 2 weeks ago, and they said he looked perfectly fine. Just old. I don't know what I'm going to do when that day inevitably comes. Story 34. A piece of your soul is chipped away every day as you get up and live the same day repeatedly. Story 35. Friends are kind of falling out of touch. You're still friends, but everyone has their own commitments, full-time jobs, and mixed schedules, so it's hard to find time to meet up when people can attend. It has shifted from regular 10-person catch-ups at the pub to only being able to gather 1 or 2 people for dinner at the same time. It's not like in school or university when you could just message them and meet at a moment's notice. I also have back pain. Story 36. Losing friendships from high school because everyone is getting busy with their own lives leads to a general sense of uncertainty and the challenges of adulthood. I moved out 2 years ago at the age of 18. During the first year, I felt lost and unsure about how to live on my own. For example, I had to learn to organize myself, do my own laundry, make my doctor's appointments, find an apartment, and handle all the paperwork that comes with it. Additionally, I had to stay at a hospital after a bike accident, which was my first experience with such a situation. I was unsure of the paperwork they required and what I needed to do. These are aspects of life that you don't consider as a child, and navigating new experiences without a parent to support you can be challenging. Story 37. Hereditary health problems that do not show symptoms until your mid to late 20s and have no cure, only lifelong treatments. Story 38. Constantly learning about medical conditions related to your symptoms can greatly impact your daily life, especially when dealing with them seems overwhelming. If you are in your 30s and experience various persistent issues with sleeping, speaking, or breathing since childhood, and you believe you may have a short tongue, Story 39. Thinking that as adults we would all look to the most knowledgeable and experienced people to guide us, rather than to someone who simply said what sounded best to us. Story 40. Parenting your child and also your parents can be challenging. It is often easier with your child because they eventually understand. Story 41. The man of my dreams became a dangerous abuser due to traumatic brain injuries, and I lost everything in my attempt to keep my children safe. Story 42. Pretty much everything from A to Z, including dealing with adult children and a spouse. My parents were divorced, and I have been married for over 25 years. I also handle taxes. Story 43. Involuntary unemployment. Failing as a child or in school was always my own fault. 2,500 rejection letters later, and knowing many others in my industry facing the same challenges is as bewildering as it is soul-crushing. Story 44. Losing my dad at 29 was difficult. My mom left when I was 5, so he was the one who raised me. I miss receiving advice from him so much. Story 45. Taxes and the healthcare system in the United States are complex topics. I still don't fully understand how it works. It seems like when I earn money, a significant portion is gone. Additionally, dealing with people who you need to remain professional with can be challenging, especially when they start being rude. Story 46. Making important decisions while realizing you are improvising. My parents never sat me down and told me that everyone is just making it up. I spent 20 years thinking there was something wrong with me, but nobody anywhere has ever truly known what they were doing. Those who believed they did were simply mistaken. I have ensured to inform every young person I care about, so at least they will know. Story 47. Infertility. I assumed getting pregnant would be the easy part. Turns out it was literally impossible. Story 48. When you have the time, you won't have the money. If you have the money, you won't have the time. The goal is to find a way to make this untrue in the long term by securing a job that pays enough to cover your expenses while providing ample free time to enjoy life. However, finding such a job in the United States can be quite challenging. Story 49. College-aged individuals are having car accidents, and State Farm has decided not to renew my insurance. I have held the same insurance for over 30 years with State Farm. Life was easy. My insurance would auto-renew and my payments were automatic. I work from home and do not drive much. Story 50. Political volatility, taxes and pensions. What happens when you get ill and there is no cure? Pain management, emotional stability, or hypersensitivity to what other people are reacting to around you, where you feel threatened all the time. You interpret everything around you as more evidence of the threat, creating a vicious cycle. You can recognize the cycle as an adult, but that doesn't mean you are equipped to manage it. What is and isn't considered normal in a relationship, including friendships, family relationships, and employer-employee relationships? Story 51. Depression can feel more pronounced in your 40s and 50s as you come to the realization that life may not be as enjoyable as you once expected. Even with financial stability, you face everyday challenges like bills, car troubles, home repairs, and children's expenses, all while preparing for retirement. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.